first part we're going to design for our CO2 dragster is our axles. Now, a quick note on the axles. You can get them from a variety of sources. In the case you see here, you'll see Pittsco, who makes a 1/8 inch axle. They make them in aluminum, plastic, as well as in brass. The other options are going with Amazon. You can also find axles at a place called McMaster Car, which produces a very quality product as well. You can also go down to Lowe's or Home Depot and go into their specialty fastener section, and you can find axles there. You can also find a brass tube axle, which is a very good axle, but they bend quite easily. We're going to go ahead and design our first axles, and we're going to put them into our library of parts that we created in our project folder. Before we go headlong into designing parts for our CO2 dragster, particularly in this case the axles, I'm going to do some basic show you how to make Fusion work. So Fusion is what's known as a sketch-based modeler, similar to Creo from Parametric Technology, similar to Onshape, similar to Autodesk Inventor, and definitely similar to SolidWorks. A sketch-based model. You start with a sketch and you create an extrusion. So I'm going to go ahead and select the sketch command, and I'm going to go ahead and hit this plane, and it'll open up my sketch palette. Now I'm just going to come up here and draw a quick little rectangular shape, and I'm going to extrude that. Before I extrude it, I need to show you how to use this screen better. So I can hold my shift key down, and then while I'm holding my shift key down, I can hold my middle rolling wheel, which is also acts like a button down, and I can rotate that view to where I see it in 3D. Release that. Now what I can do is I can hit an E key, which stands for extrusion, and I can grab this arrow and zoom it up to about right there and hit enter. So now if you look down, you got your browser over here, and then down here you have your timeline. So I have a sketch that I started with, and I have an extruded shape I started with, okay? Now, again, to let you zoom around in your views, I can hold my shift key down and move my middle mouse button, and I can rotate around. Now, if I get kind of wonky, I can come back over here to this, and I can hit the house, and it rotates it back to 3D view and zooms it up to the screen extents. Now, as you can see, I'm rolling and zooming in and out using the rolling wheel on my mouse button. So I'm going to roll that out to there. Now, I want to show you this down here. This is the display settings. I click on display settings, come up here to visual style, and it says it's shaded. Well, I want to see it shaded with visible edges, so that way I can understand what I'm working with better. But I can also come down here and I can get style, and I can go to wireframe, and I can see it in a wireframe. Well, if you like the artist Escher, this is kind of confusing to you as it was to me. So I'm going to come over here and go visual style, and now I will say with hidden edges. And so you can see the hidden lines back there behind it. Now, as I hold my shift key down and push down on my rolling wheel on my mouse, you can see that that stays consistent as I move the model around. Again, if we want to come up here and get ourselves back to that one view, I can do that. But let's look at this a little bit more up here. Let's look at what we can do on this cube, like hitting the front view, and it rotates around. If I want to, I can grab these faces and just kind of rotate it to my desired that I want. Maybe I want to hit a corner here, where it brings up that corner. Come up here and look at this corner, which rotates it around there. Now for me, that's completely confusing because I don't like looking at wireframe. So I'll turn that around. Now there is one other view I do want to show you. Let me rotate this around a little bit. Actually, just go back to the house plat. It's easier. So I'll do that, and now I'll come down here to visual style on wireframe with visible edges only. Now this is not many people use this. It's actually quite helpful and useful to you. But if you have an old computer with very slow graphics, working in wireframe will speed it up a lot. When you come back up here to, say, visual style with hidden edges, then you're putting a lot more tax on your, let me go back here to the orbit command. You're putting a lot more strain on your graphics card. But either way, Fusion is very efficiently ran and made and allows you to do that. Now, let me show you something else. Shortcut keys are critical. So if I want to dimension this, I can come up here and I can select, I can come down here and do dimensions, or I can just hit the D key. Well, I can't hit the D key because I am in a model. You can only hit the D key when you come over here to this and hit Edit Sketch. So now I'll hit the D key, I will select this, pull it down. It says 70 millimeters. Well, let's make it 60. Now I can also come over here and I can set a dimension to this as well. And it says 30 millimeters. But watch what happens when I select this. It says D3. I'll hit enter. And now it says it's a reference dimension off that one dimension. And now it is 60 in size. Okay, that's pretty cool. If I don't like that, come back over here, double click it again, and say 30 millimeters. And there it is to itself. Now I'm in this command here. I can do a right mouse click and I can hit exit. Now I'm going to go back into that D command again. I can also hit escape and get out of that dimension command. Now, one of the things that's cool about Fusion, which I do like an awful lot, is known as the S key, which stands for shortcuts. I hit the S key and it comes up with all these cool shortcuts. Now, when you do that on your version of Fusion, you're not going to see all these cool shortcuts. You're going to see probably just one or two. I haven't been in it so long, I would say it's only one or two things. Well, I can come down here now and I can do different commands I can look for, like maybe rectangular. Okay, so I can do a rectangular pattern, and when it'll open up all of these different commands that start with the letter R. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit this up arrow, and when I put that up arrow up there, it put my rectangular command in. Well, another one I like to use a lot is circular pattern. So I do CIR, and there's circular pattern. So I'll put it up there. Boom. And so now I click off to the side, hit my S key again. So I've got some space for some more. Let's see if we can add a couple more just to see how it works. So my next one I want to enter is circle. Okay. So there's my 2-point circle. Use that a lot. So I'll put that in there. Let's come down here and look for, let's see, let's go back to rectangle again, because I like to use a lot of different rectangle commands. I do rectangle by center quite a bit too. So where'd it go? Hit that. Didn't show up. Let's go back to rectangle by center again, okay? Rectangle by center. Hit this and see if I can put it up there. Yes, it creates a third layer of shortcut commands that you can use at all times. So I'm going to hit click out here. Whoops, didn't want that rectangle by center. I hit my shortcut command here. If I don't like a command on there, I just drag it off to the side. Hit escape, come back. Okay, let's get out of that. Hit the S key again and see it still shows that next layer. Well, that's fine. We can add more if we want to. But that shortcut command becomes something that I use quite a bit. Okay, so I'm going to escape out of this. I'm going to finish my sketch. I'm going to go to the home view and I can see my part in the isometric projection that I commonly like to use. Okay, now I personally prefer to design using, let's go up here. Oh, by the way, when you're out of your sketch command, you can have other shortcuts up here that you can add. Like maybe you want to do, like a fillet. Like I use fillet an awful lot. So I can put my fillet command here, and I can hit. Oh, it's already on there. Let's try chamfer because I do use chamfer a lot. So there's my chamfer. So I'll come over here and I'll add it to that top there for my shortcut. I like those a lot. Okay, cool. So maybe that's good enough for now, and we'll stop here and we'll come back and look at this later. Okay, I have Fusion up right now, and I have a folder that I created, or a project that I created back in 2024 called BKP Dragster 24. And since then, I've created another folder that has, it's called 25 Platman Assassin, Platman Spear, and 2025 TSA Dragster. Now, this is the Dragster folder that I'm going to be using to create our TSA Dragster. But before I do any of that, as you can see, I've got parts down here in this master folder, which is useful. But I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, and I'm going to call this CO2 Dragster Parts. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I want you to put all the components that we design that will be common to all of the dragsters we make. Wheels, axles, E-clips, all kind of things like I-screws and stuff. We want to have a folder that has all of those parts in there. So when I create another dragster and another dragster, I can always go back to that one master folder. So we're going to call this dragster folder right here, the CO2 Dragster Parts. So we got that up. Now we have nothing in it. So let's go ahead and get started and create our first product. Now our first part, and that'll be the axle. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this project, and I'm going to do it in a way I do my components. I'm going to say, let's say here, we'll say 25 hyphen axle, and I'm going to say hyphen front. Going to do a front axle. Yeah, even though you're using the car has two axles, they're actually going to be in different sizes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to give it a version of 001. And I'm going to highlight this and copy this. So I went back and highlighted this by dragging my mouse over it like that. And then I do a Control C. If you're on a Macintosh, it'd be a Command C. So I'll go ahead and do a Control C and I'll hit save. So now it's going to save this file right here, and you can see it actually open up in here in our folder over here. You can see it, but I'm now going to do a right mouse click, and I'm going to say New Component. Now, since I did a Control C and copied that file name, I'm now going to highlight that using my mouse. Just drag it from right to left. I'm going to do a Control V to paste in that new name. Now, the way I design in Fusion is I create a parts, and then I create the assembly file separately. So now you can design all of it in Fusion as components into one file, but to me it gets cumbersome and it's slow, and it doesn't match my workflow. So I've gone ahead and done that. Now what I'm going to do is collapse this folder, and I'm going to go out here and I'm going to create a sketch, and I'm going to do it on the right plane. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a circle. And since I'm still in millimeters, I'm going to say 3 millimeters. Just that simple. Okay, so now if I zoom up on this, I've got this 3 millimeter sketch. Now, a common mistake a lot of people make when they're designing dragsters is they'll come over and they'll finish this sketch, and then they'll do an extrude, and they'll grab it and they'll drag it this way. Don't do that. The reason why is it makes it very complicated to come back and change that axle distance or length later when you have to go from one dragster to another dragster to another dragster, or from front to back. So instead of doing this, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go symmetric, and I'm going to key in a number. I'm going to go with 45. So I'll create 45, hit enter, and I'll zoom out and look at that. Now let's measure that. We can do it by coming up here, selecting this command here called inspect, or I can just hit the I key. It does the same thing. Grab one edge of that axle, another edge, and it says it's 90 degrees. Well, I wanted a 45-degree axle. Well, okay, we can fix that. So we'll hit close, come over here to that. We'll hit edit feature, and we'll take this 45, which meant it went 45 in each direction. I now will do a /2 to divide that. So let's go back to the inspect command again, using the I key, and I will measure from here to there. And now I've got a 45 millimeter axle that's 3 millimeters in diameter. That's what I want. Now, what I could do now is I could just leave this, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a characteristic. So I'm going to go and right mouse click on this component, and I'm going to select a physical material. Why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I want to be able to track the weight of my dragster. So in this one, I'm just going to do a search for plane. Let's see if I can find it. Whoops, I messed up. We'll come up here and we'll search. That's the material color. I'm not going to do that. Come back over here again, and we'll do a right mouse click, and we'll go back to properties. My mistake there, guys. So it's going to open up the physical properties, and I'm going to come down here to metal, and I have all kinds of different metals that I can accept. Notice how long this is. So I'm going to scroll down to, there's lead. We definitely don't want a lead axle. We'll keep coming. We'll just say steel. I'm going to grab this and just drop it on top of that. Hit close. Now I can come over here and I can look at my properties. So here's my physical property materials there. I can right mouse click. Let's do that again. Let me find my properties. Missed it last time. There it is. So it's going to come up and say this is my component. It's going to go out and say loading properties, and it will take a few minutes here, and it'll come back and give me my mass. It's 2.4, almost 2.5 grams, and volume and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to close that. Now, if I want to, I can change the color of that, hit my A key, and I can come up here and I can look for appearances. In this case, I want to look at brushed aluminum. Did you say, Mr. Platt, you designed this with steel? Yeah, I know. I know what I did. And so the reason I'm going with brushed aluminum is I can come back and I can sand that axle. See if I can get it on there. There we go. Hit close. I can sand that axle and it can actually change colors. Well, in this case, it didn't change colors. But this is good for right now. We got us a 45 millimeter axle. So let's go ahead and save that component. Hit save. And we'll go ahead and open up uh, our, our browser and we can see our steel axle is in there. That's pretty good. So now what I'm going to do, instead of going with this one, I'm going to come up here to this and I'm going to say pull down save as, and it's front axle. So I'm going to double click on the word front and I'm going to write rear. Okay, so I write rear, and now I've got a front axle and a rear axle, but maybe I want to change the distance of that particular rear axle. So I'm going to come up here, double check I'm in rear axle, which I am. I'm going to come down here, right mouse click on the extrusion, and I'm going to change this to, let's say 48. So it actually makes it 2 millimeters longer. I'm gonna go ahead and hit save, and I hit save. And so now, as you can see over here, as it finishes updating, we have our front axle and our rear axle. Quickly, with one file, we define two parts. Isn't that awesome? So now let's move on to designing our CO2 cartridge next.